Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Success Stoppers. The 10 ways that self-sabotage might be tripping you up in your business or your launch and what to do about it. All right, we are just making sure everything is up and away in the group. Gonna tag you. We're live, everybody. We're live. We are live. Okay, so come on in. How's everybody doing? No, we're live in the group. Okay, live in the group. So how's everyone doing? Who's ready? Give me a 10 in the comments if you are ready to learn about the 10 different ways that self-sabotage might be tripping you up. Hi, Cindy. Hi. Okay, good. Thanks for being here, everybody. Just getting everything all situated. I love your prompt punctuality. Punctuality is one of my core values, so I love you already, and you get some gold stars. Right? Who doesn't love some punctuality? All right, we're pinning it to the top. We are out of here. All right, let me get over here into the comments so I can see you. Oh, hi, Beth. Hi, Charlotte. Yay. You can hear me and see me. Thank you. Okay, perfect. All right. Welcome to those of you here live, and welcome to those of you later on the replay. So if you are live with us here, put live in the comments, please. And if you're watching later and you're on the replay, give us a replay. All right, Jose, hello, welcome. Okay, so in case you forgot, today we are talking about the saboteurs, the 10 different ways that self-sabotage might be tripping you up in your business, stealing time, stealing energy, causing anxiety, causing stress, causing us to stall on our journey, and how to shift it. Okay? That's what we're talking about today, in case you forgot what you signed up for, or if you just stumbled upon us and you're like, whoa, what's Megan Gehring on about today? That's what we're talking about, okay? And welcome, everybody. I love punctuality as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, I'm glad you're here live. I thought you were up and away in other trainings. That's exciting. So yeah, that's why we're here, okay? Does anybody, actually, do you have some note paper, pen, journal situation? Because I guarantee you, you're going to want to take some notes, okay? You're going to want to take some notes. And on that note, be here with us. Comment along in the chat. Answer the questions. If you're watching the replay later, talk to me like you're in the room with me. Just talk to me. Talk to me. Because the more present you are in the training, the more you're going to get out of it. The more we make notes, then the more you're going to retain. And, you know, if you're able to, please just kind of shut down the other bing bong windows and just be present with us and really let this sink in, because I'm going to tell you this. Aside from yoga, the tool set that I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about this tool set today. Aside from yoga, this tool set that you're going to learn today is hands down the most powerful tool for transformation that I have learned, as far as personal development, self-understanding, personal growth goes, okay? It's hand in hand, mental fitness and yoga. Mental fitness, what's that? You're going to learn more about it in a minute. But before we jump in, and before I even introduce myself, I will let you know that I have something exciting that I want to invite you to, happening on February 22nd. If you are in launch mode, or you're about to be in launch mode, or you're going to launch again soon, you're going to want to come to Align Your Launch, happening next Thursday. And it's all about helping you to be able to overcome launch anxiety so that you can sell out your offers without exhausting yourself, by learning a powerful tool that the visionary CEOs use, learning a method that will help you to boost your energy, your productivity, and your joy by upwards of 72%, and learning how to harness the power of your mind in just 15 minutes a day. So if you want to join us for that free workshop happening next Thursday, drop the word align in the comments, and I will make sure to get you the link to join us for free. Okay, so drop the word align, and we will make sure that you can join us next Thursday for that free Align Your Launch workshop. And as you all arrive, drop live if you're here live, and replay if you're later on in the day. So who is this person in front of you carrying on? Well, before I answer that question, have you been to one of my trainings before? Put the letter N if this is your first training with me, and put the letter R if this is one that you're returning, you've been to other ones, okay? So put N if this is your first training, and R if you've come to other trainings and you are returning, okay? So would love to hear that from you so that I can kind of gauge where we're at. I'm not going to spend a long time telling you all about my things and all about the awards and the certifications and da-ba-da-ba-da. I just want to let you know that I'm leading a movement of people who care so much about how they feel that they make time for themselves every day. Because I believe that in order to be truly successful, you do actually need to be healthy and happy as well. Do you agree? Put HH, put healthy, happy, HH in the comments if you are in agreement with that. Because if you are in agreement, then you, my friend, are in the right place, and you are going to love this workshop, and you're going to love Align Your Launch too. So make sure to drop the word align. So that's a little bit about me. No, I'll tell you a little more. So I am a personal trainer. I teach yoga. I've done that for almost 19 years. I know I had to get the calculator out the other day because I was like, 2005? That's not 11 years ago anymore, Megan. So I've been doing that for almost 19 years, as well as being a mental fitness coach. So you're probably familiar with exercise and yoga. Mental fitness might be something that's new to you. Did you know that in your physical body, you have over 650 muscles, whereas in your mind, you only have 3? In your mind, you have 3 key muscles that are essential for harnessing the power of your mind. And that's what mental fitness is. And hold on to your pens, my friend, because today you're going to learn about one of the muscles of mental fitness, and that is the techniques of self-sabotage. That's not actually the muscle. The muscle is being able to catch yourself when you're in a pattern of self-sabotage and shift it. That's the muscle. Okay. The other 2 muscles you'll learn at Align Your Launch. So if you want to join us for that, drop the word align. So that's a little bit about me. Oh yeah, I brought this too. I'm a published author and I'm so excited about it. So yeah, there's me, speaker, humanitarian, dog mom, all the things, Capricorn, New Year's baby. I don't know. What else do you want to know about me? Slightly ridiculous. A lot ridiculous, actually. But how did I come to this point of really wanting to serve you in launching your programs, your offers inside your business? Well, let's take it back a little bit. March 2020. No, not that far back, but you all know what happened in March 2020, right? Just after that, actually. It was just a couple of months after that. I was at the end of my launch. 5 days into a 5-day challenge. Have you done a 5-day challenge? Put the number 5 in the comments. If you are planning to do one at some point, put a 5 with the exclamation point. I had done my 5-day challenge, delivered so much value, taught my heart out, shared stories, DMs, all the things. And I made the invitation at the end of my 5-day challenge to one of my programs that's called Wake the Warrior Within. It's an online yoga program. And I finished the live. I pressed end on the live. And here's what happened inside my head. Oh, that was pretty good. Yeah, I did a pretty good job. Really? Did you though? You kind of screwed up that last part. Did you really do that good of a job? Has anybody signed up yet? No? Oh, yeah, well, I don't know if you did that good of a job. This is what's happening inside my head. And I'm like, you're right. I didn't. Maybe I should do more. Maybe I should do some more emails. Maybe I should do some more DMs. And then quickly it spiraled down this slippery slope of self-doubt, questioning everything. Do I even have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? I don't know if I can do this. Am I cut out for this? This is so much harder than I thought. Can you relate to that at all? Because that's what was happening inside my brain over the course of about 3.5 seconds. And I'm like, this is it. No one cares. No one's ever going to buy my offer. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Yeah. 2.5 seconds later, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. Oh God. That's what happened in my head. And how many people do you think signed up for my program after I spiraled into this crash of feeling defeated and depleted, and on the very last day of the open cart period, which is kind of like the grand finale of a presentation, right? Like your launch is kind of like a Broadway show. You know, you practice for it, you do the dress rehearsals, right? You practice the webinar content, you do all the things, you got all the invitations. And then on the very last day, which is, by the way, when most people sign up, here's the pep talk I gave myself. All right, just get to the end of the live and don't cry, and then it's over. Wow, that's so compelling. Like, really? Just don't cry? Yeah, that's great. Way to bring the high vibes, Megan. Not so much even close, right? And so there I was. Nobody signed up. And so it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's what began this journey. Because I believe that the universe, if we ask for help, is very benevolent, loving, and kind. So I was like laying in the puddle of tears out here on the lanai, on the patio, and I'm like, I can't do this to myself again. This is brutal. I was exhausted. I was defeated. I depleted. I was like the epitome of the worn out entrepreneur. And I said, I can't do this. I won't do this again. I need to find a different way. And so I believe, as I said, the universe has a sense of humor. Do we agree? The universe has a sense of humor, because another time when I asked for help, the universe sent me a rooster, which you'll hear that funny story at Align Your Launch. But this time the universe sent me a woman named Lorraine. I met her at a joint venture event, and we were talking about our businesses, and I was telling her about my launch. She was telling me about her program that she's learning, about how the ways that we tend to get tripped up by self-doubt and inner judgment and overachieving and procrastinating and perfectionism. And I was like, tell me more, tell me more. And she's like, well, here's the thing. This is how the mind works. When we're experiencing stress, we default to these subconscious patterns that we learned as kids. And I was like, oh, really? And she goes, yeah, like if your parents were hyperachievers and really only gave you love and accolades when you got A+, you might push yourself to become a high achiever. And I was like, are you talking about me? Because that's definitely my reality. And so she started explaining to me that inside the mind, as you probably know, is concerned and focused on survival. And when we are in a stressful situation, like a launch, your brain perceives it as a survival situation. And let's be real, a lot of what we do as entrepreneurs can be perceived as mildly threatening. It's obviously not the same as saber-toothed tiger, dinosaur sort of threatening. Our modern realities of stress and financial, challenges and algorithm issues and email marketing and Google changing its thing and your email deliverability, those aren't the exact same things as saber-toothed tiger threats, but your brain is wired the same way to handle the situation in a fight, flight, freeze response. And this is how the nervous system is wired. And so what I began to learn about, and what I'm excited to share about with you today, is how when we are in stressful situations, we default to patterns that we learned as children. And that's essentially what these different patterns of self-sabotage are, is they are things that you were modeled when you were just a wee little tot and your brain was still developing and you didn't know the difference between yourself and the world around you. And in order for you to stay safe in your tribe or your family of origin, you did what they did because that's how things were done in your family. So think about it. In your family, was there kind of a habit of avoiding awkward conversations and ooh, don't do it, don't talk about that, that's not that big of a deal? If so, you may find yourself avoiding challenging conversations or procrastinating in some way. Or for example, if in my family, I was raised by Irish Catholic farmer, several generations back immigrants who also were very focused on academics. And so hard work is how you earned your keep. Hard work is how you made money. And you gotta get an A+ or it's not really much at all. And so that's what was wired into my brain. Is this making sense? Can anybody relate to any of this? So what I am starting to introduce to you is where these patterns of self-sabotage originate. And so this is what we want to look at, okay? What we want to look at is where this comes from and how it shows up, because when we can start to witness these patterns, when we are in a stress or survival state, we can get triggered and it can cause these patterns of self-sabotage to kick in. Okay, so the way to look at this is that's the way that the brain is handling a stressful situation. And that part of your brain that does that is called the amygdala. So your amygdala is your survival center. And when that part is active, your brain is focused on, very, very narrowly focused on surviving the challenge at hand. Okay, and then when we are able to recognize that we're in these patterns of self-sabotage and pause and ground ourselves and come back to a place of connected awareness, we actually shift into a very different part of your brain, the mastermind, the creative center, the Einstein brain, if you will. And that part of your brain is where you're tapped into inspiration, creativity, focus, clarity, alignment, if you will. So what we're talking about here is the scientific breakdown of what happens when we are in stress or not. And it's interestingly paralleled by energetic alignment, right? When we are tight and we're in resistance and we're frustrated, our nervous system is contracted and we're closed off and we're in low vibe, negative emotions. And we aren't able to access that higher wisdom and perspective that's available to us when we're in that mastermind, when we're in that creative center in our brain. So let me know if this makes sense, because this is the foundation of mental fitness. This is the science, if you will, like Science 101, very light neuroscience, but this is how we are wired and why these patterns tend to show up, not just in our business, but in all areas of our life. Okay, so yes, this is definitely a challenge that we can overcome. Yes, Charlotte, you can relate to all of this. You can relate, Jose, thank you. Okay, great, 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 great. Thank you, it's making sense. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, so the amazing thing about mental fitness is he's taken these like really, really potentially very complicated concepts and just really distilled them down. So luckily, there's only 10 ways that we self-sabotage, okay? And so think of this as the Frankenstein part of our brain, and then the wise sage is the Einstein. And that's where we want to be in our launch, right? Because that's when we're in flow and we're in ease and we're in an expanded state in our nervous system. So these 10 methods or patterns of self-sabotage are in no numerical order, no sequential order, other than the first one. And after that, I have chosen to put them in the order that they're in because of the way they tend to show up in entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of commonalities between us. Yay! You are unique. I don't know. You are a unique. Whoa, that's a tough one. You are a unique snowflake. I was going to say unicorn, and that was a whole other vowel that was going to trip me up. Okay, so the first one that arrives on the scene, let's go back to my story, right? So I'm in the launch and I'm like, nobody's going to sign up. Yeah, no one's going to sign up. No one's signed up yet. It's been 2.5 seconds. It doesn't matter. No one's going to sign up. The first thing that comes on the scene, the first character that comes on stage, if you will, if we're thinking of this as a play or an act, the first character, the main character that comes on stage or into the moment or is the first voice that you hear in your head is the judge. And this is the one that we all have. So put a J in the comments, okay? So put a J in the comments. The judge is like the inner critic, but worse. Worse? How does it get worse than that? Well, the judge kickstarts the fire by judging ourselves, by critiquing the situation and critiquing other people. So this is where the brain starts to say things like, oh, I don't know if you have what it takes. I don't know what the point is. Oh, the algorithm is stacked against you. You know, I don't know why Google is doing this, and like looking externally and putting the responsibility externally by critiquing the situation. Okay, so the judge is the Kickstarter. It's the original one that we all have, often called the master saboteur. So it really kind of starts the fire, right? And so it gets on the scene. Think of it like the main character in a play. So it gets on the scene and it's got the mic and it's talking all sorts of shit. Like, not a launch analogy, but you know, if you're driving and you're hurrying and you're trying to get somewhere and somebody jumps in front of you in traffic, and if you've ever heard yourself say something like, oh, what? You don't know how to signal? You really just cut people off like that? That's the judge. And before we go any further, I want you to know, put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your head. Let's take a breath. Your brain is doing its best to keep you alive and keep you safe. And that's what it's doing here. And so let's have a moment and a breath of gratitude for that beautiful brain and beautiful heart of yours. And as we go into this journey and meet the other characters, just do so. Commit to doing so with a sense of curiosity and compassion. Okay, so curiosity and compassion. Because the other characters in the shitty committee, yes, you heard me. I love rhyming, I love alliteration, but the shitty committee. Why do I call it that? Well, because these characters in our head, these techniques of self-sabotage, they don't do much other than just talk a lot of smack. They generally make us feel tight, constrictive, like crap, and they don't do anything, right? So the shitty committee, aptly named. So the next character that comes along that's super common in entrepreneurs is the hyperachiever. So put HA in the comments. So the hyperachiever is, maybe I need another certification. Maybe I need a few thousand more followers on Instagram or a few hundred more people on my email list. Maybe once I have that 10K day or 10K launch, or then I'll finally feel like I'm good enough. And the hyperachiever is the more, faster, better, harder, all the things. The hyperachiever takes the carrot and puts the carrot out here, and you're like, I'm just running for the carrot. And then as soon as you might get a little nibble, and then the carrot goes off and it's like, oh, next, let's do a little something more, right? So the hyperachiever is very common in entrepreneurs. And I want you to think about it just for a second, because each of the saboteurs, each of the patterns of self-sabotage actually has a superpower in it. Because if you look at the hyperachiever, which is a quality that's very highly regarded in entrepreneurs, very motivated, very goal-driven, very focused, very ambitious, right? So those are all really important qualities when they're used from a place of intention. When they're used from a place of survival and stress by the amygdala, by the Einstein mind, as a form of self-sabotage, that's when we start to feel like, I'm just not enough. I don't know if I can do this. What's the point? I got to go do another thing before I feel like I finally made it, or before I'm finally successful, okay? So keep in mind that inside each of them, there's a saboteur, there's a gift that we get to unpack a little bit, that we begin to recognize. So as you are going through this, making sure that you're just making some notes. And if you notice yourself in any of these saboteurs, if you recognize yourself in any of them, remember what we're doing. We're doing it from a place of love and compassion, because as soon as we start to make it wrong, guess who has the mic? Guess who has the mic? The judge. Oh, really? Look at you just going after it like some sort of hyperachiever. No, gentle, right? Because we're getting out of the mind and into the heart. That's what we're doing, okay? So up next, we have, and who doesn't have this on their resume? When you used to have resumes, guarantee that you had on, at least on one of your resumes, attentive to detail, right? Attentive to detail, AKA perfectionism. In the saboteur framework, in the mental fitness framework, this is called the stickler for details. So let's put an S. Let's put an S for stickler, right? And think about it. Of course we want somebody who's highly attentive to detail, right? But if we get to the point where we're nitpicking at the font and we got to move the thing on the PDF before we can let anybody see it, or we got to change the landing page because it looks funny. And I mean, like, of course you want to optimize it for mobile and all that sort of thing. But like, we don't need to, it doesn't need to be perfect before we can show it to the world. But our mind says, oh yes, no, anything short of perfect is just crap, right? Which is not true. Because a lot of us will get stalled in this perfectionism and we don't show it to the world, right? Recognize yourself in this, put your hand up and just give yourself some love again, give yourself some love, okay? So S, yes, that's the stickler, okay? So that's the perfectionist tendency that many of us have, right? The highly attentive to detail. All right, so also you can see how that's a really beautiful thing, right? We need somebody who can pick out the typos and like tell us when the font's weird and stuff like that, but it doesn't need to be perfect for it to be worthy of us sending out to the world. Okay, so the next one is one that we all have to a degree, and some of us have more than others. And if you relate to being multi-passionate or very creative, you might recognize yourself in what I call the shiny squirrel. The shiny squirrel is the restless. So the restless saboteur, put an R in the chat. The restless saboteur is the, oh, my 5-day challenge didn't work. Maybe next time I need a webinar. Maybe I should do a live launch. Maybe I need a new coach. Maybe I should try a different thing altogether. Maybe I should create a new program. I'll tell you this, over the course of the pandemic, I created 7 programs. My coach was like, could you stop? I was like, no, I can't. I need to do something more. I'm in my house. I'm bored. That was my restless, basically in the box that is my house. Okay. So can you relate to that restlessness? Is that this is where we get stalled, because if we're just constantly trying something new, doing something different, we don't get to rinse and repeat and refine. We don't get the traction. We don't get the momentum. And I'm saying this to myself so I can hear it, but it is one of those things that we get really excited and we're like, oh, but I want to go on Threads now. Maybe I should be on TikTok, maybe on YouTube and all the things. And we just are like spreading ourselves really thin. And again, what's the gift in the restless saboteur? The gift is that desire for more and curiosity, right? But only when it's used from a place of connected awareness and intention. Because if it's used by the stress of the mind, then we're not doing it in an intentional way. And we tend to use a lot of time and energy. And so the other thing is that we want to just look at this through the lens of curiosity, okay? And so the next one is one that many of us relate. Thank you, Emmy. Oh, thank you, Troy. Thank you for all the comments. Okay, so the next one is one that many of us can relate to. And it's one where we tend to stall, often called procrastination. In the mental fitness framework, it's called the avoider, because we're avoiding. I don't know about you, but I don't particularly enjoy doing my taxes. Bless you, all of you CPAs and bookkeeping people, but I don't like doing my taxes. And for some reason, I delay on it every year. And what happens when I'm delaying on doing it is I'm thinking about the fact that I'm not doing it, and it's stressing me out that I'm not doing it and I should do it. So see, what happens here is that if we avoid doing something for your launch or in making an invitation or something, guaranteed, we're off somewhere, either like procrastinating, or you're like over at your bookshelf and you're organizing it by color and size, and you're like, oh, I really should be sending out that landing page and all of this stuff. And so what's happening is the saboteurs have told us that it's fine. You got lots of time. Tax season's not till April. You got lots of time. Or, yeah, it's okay. The launch can wait, no big deal. And then we get to that point where we're like, panic is setting in, and we're just like scrambling to get it all together. Okay, so put an A in the chat for avoider. Can anyone relate to this? And then what tends to happen is if we get into that like anxious launch anxiety, running on caffeine and cortisol and cheese strings, and we're just like, in that worn out entrepreneur vibe, and we get to that point, we're on anxiety overdrive, we're just kind of spinning our circles, maybe the launch goes well, maybe not, and we get to the opposite side of it, and we get to that defeated and depleted crash, and we're like, I can't do this to myself again. This is brutal. and we're like in that bummed out, worn out, like, what am I even doing with my life? We tend to avoid doing it again, right? And so that's definitely a place where I was, and that was the end of my story, where I was like, I'm not doing this again the same way. And that's why I'm so excited to be sharing this with you, and we'll go a lot more into it at Align Your Launch. So make sure to put the word align, because it's totally free. You're going to love it. And so it really is just, when we know better, we can do better. And when you start to recognize that tight, contractive, stress, worried, doubting, shrinking feeling that is not you in your high vibe, that's not you in that open, aligned state, that's when we have to stop, take a power pause, and just look at where our focus just was. Hear what the thought just was. Hear the tone of it. Because the tone of the saboteurs will always be judgmental and self-depreciating. It will typically be associated with tight, lower energy, like, sometimes called negative emotions. I don't know if it's negative and positive, whatever sort of naming you want, but typically will be associated with guilt and shame and doubt and fear. These are all just expressions of fear. And so we want to look at them with compassion, because it is, as we learned earlier, a self-protective mechanism, because it's vulnerable. Put a V. Well, actually, oh no, that's fine. Put a V in the comments if you have sometimes in your entrepreneurial journey felt like it's a little bit vulnerable to be going and putting yourself out there. You've created something that is your expression of your heart, right? Especially for, creatives or people that are doing things in the service profession, which many of you are, if you're living your purpose. And so it can be really vulnerable to put yourself out there and have crickets, or to have people not buy into it, or not many signups, or whatever, right? It can be very vulnerable. To me, at that launch, it felt like, when you were in grade school, and this was like little T trauma for me because I'm not sporty, but remember in grade school in gym class, and you'd be standing there, and then there was a captain picking the teams, and everyone's getting picked, and you're just standing there, and you're like, feel like you're shrinking smaller and smaller, and you're like last picked for the team. That's how it can feel sometimes. That's how it felt for me, and I don't know if that analogy makes sense. I love analogies and metaphors, but for me, that's what it felt like. And so it was like, we get to learn to choose ourselves, and we get to learn to shift the inner dialogue so that you can come back to the wisdom of your heart. Come back to the wisdom of your heart. Okay, so we have 4 to go. Oh no, 5 to go. All right, next up, we have the controller. Having a hard time delegating things out because you can do it better, faster, quicker, and easier, right? By the time you make the video to show your VA how to do it, you could have just done it yourself. But once they know how to do it, they can just repeat it. You don't have to tell them over and over. But because you can do it the best, you just keep it yourself. So that's an evidence of the controller. And that's one of those things that really, being able to catch ourselves in it will free up time and energy. Because if we're like, no, just give it to me, I'll do it, then it can be one of those things where you are the bottleneck in your business. Because if you're the only one doing the things and you have limited time and energy, then that can be very limiting. Okay, so C. C for controller, that's the controller. So again, we need leaders. We need people that are going to take action and do the damn thing. That's incredible, right? So this is, again, very common in entrepreneurs. Next, we have the slippery spiral of self-doubt, which is called the victim. Okay, so V in the chat. And so this is where we feel so deeply, but we feel everything as a reflection of us. And so we take things really personally, which is totally me, totally me. And if those of us, because I have definitely have seasons of this myself, that are challenged with seasons of sadness or depression, it can be easy for us to, not easy, it can be common for us to slip into this because of the way that we view things in our life. And so really just honoring this and ourselves, because when we have that victim And I don't think it's necessarily negative. It's just an opportunity for us to take responsibility, because you are an incredible co-creator with the universe, that it is an opportunity to be compassionate with ourselves, and an opportunity to learn that we don't need to take everything personally, because that's, one of the 4 agreements. You maybe have read that book, but it can be challenging not to, right? Especially when we pour ourselves and all of our heart into things. So that's the victim. And the superpower of that is deep sensitivity, deep, deep feeling, deep, deep heart connection. Okay? And then the next one is the people pleaser. I was going to try to sing the people pleaser eater song, but it didn't go as well. It was a last minute thing. I didn't practice it. It just popped into my head. I sing a lot. So people pleasing. Sure, yeah, no problem. I totally can do that. Oh yeah, it's 12 o'clock at night. No worries. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, no. And so the pleaser is when we have a challenging time making and holding boundaries. So P in the chat, put a P in the chat. And when it comes to our business and when it comes to giving, and I've been here, I'm just going to put my other hand up. I might as well just put all my hands up here. Giving to the point that we can give so much that we're not receiving back, and we're not asking for it, and we're not, showing and sharing that these are our needs, we can get really resentful. And I have definitely been that way, because I've overgiven to the point where I'm like, what about me? But I never asked for it. And so it's an opportunity to speak our truth and ask for what we need, because the pleaser, that's a beautiful gift, right? And that to me is being of service, wanting to give, wanting to help, wanting to share. And for me, I don't think this is, gender-based at all. I think this is a human quality for a lot of people, is that loving, compassionate service. I find a lot of women do this. So, there was that, but it's also maybe conditioning and societal expectations and who knows what, but that's a whole other conversation. Sidetrack, restless, there we go. Shiny squirrel happening in action. And so we want to make sure that although you're giving and you're sharing and you're generous, that you have boundaries, right? And so, yes, so Anna says she struggles with this a lot. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, it is. It is like giving to ourselves at the expense of ourselves. And that's why we're here. That's why I'm leading the Power Pause movement, is because I want you to fill up the cup. I want you to know that what you're doing is important, but we want to do it from a place of deep overflow and deep presence and willingness and desire and purpose and intentionality. And so that's really where we want to catch ourselves in these outdated patterns, because bless their little hearts, the little version of you learned this and continues to repeat it. But it's kind of like the operating system on your phone. When you first got your phone, whatever type you have, doesn't matter. You've probably updated the operating system, right? You get to a point where it's like alerted you 5 times and the thing is so glitchy that it's like turning itself on and off. And you've tried the technique of about the extent of my tech skills of like, just turn it off for a little bit, turn it back on, and it's still doing the weird stuff. We update the operating system. That's what this is. That's what mental fitness is. That's what the work that I do inside the Mindful Strength Method is updating the wiring so that you can be in alignment with the version of you that's in your vision, the version of you that is the purposeful powerhouse CEO that your goals and your dreams are calling you to be. Okay? So Emmy says, a gift from this is being able to learn and realize one's boundaries. Exactly. Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. And so that's the pleaser. Okay, so we are at number 8, the hypervigilant. The hypervigilant self-sabotage technique is the, what if it goes wrong? Well, I probably should have like 10 different backup plans and maybe a different platform and maybe be able to go live over here. How many drives should I save it on? The hypervigilant is kind of looking for the worst case scenario and anticipating the demise. And so this essentially is what feeds anxiety. If we're living in that anticipated worst case scenario future. So put HV in the chat, hypervigilant. And that's where we tend to kind of worry about all the things that may happen, although we don't necessarily have evidence that they will. Although it is good for us to have backup plans, right? It's very good to have backup plans, but it's also really important that we are not overanalyzing all of the details and letting them cause us anxiety and stress. Okay, so that's really important. But then if you think about it from the flip side superpower, of course, we want to examine things from all different angles. Of course you want to have a backup plan, right? Like one time I was about to go do a yoga practice down by the ocean, and it was going to be beautiful for this huge company. And I got there and somebody was having a wedding, and I was like, oh crap. But luckily my partner, Justin, he was like, have a backup plan. And so I had a backup plan to go and do this massive thing that I was supposed to do. But if I didn't have a backup plan, I would have been standing there with the wedding in the background of my video. Which would have been fine, I guess. But it's important for us to have these contingency plans, right? And so it's important, but we also don't want to get obsessive with all the things that may go wrong to the point where we're like, never mind, I'm just not going to do it. Okay, do you see that it's like a fine line. Okay, so HV, second last one, hyper-rational. Hyper-rational is all logistics, all in the head, all logic. Not so much with the emotions. The hyper-rational self-sabotaging technique is like, I don't do emotions, they're kind of messy. No, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't talk about that. And avoiding the emotionality. Okay, so last one, HR. And so that's really important because yes, we need the strategy. We need the intentionality. We need the logical step-by-steps, but you're not a robot. You have emotions, and how we connect is on emotions. And so it's very important for you to be in touch with your emotions, particularly when you're delivering inside your launch or creating content, because that's how we connect with people. And if we're up here and we're too in our heads, living life as an out-of-body experience, then we really miss out on that opportunity to have that heart-to-heart, right? The heart connection. And as heart-centered, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, it's very important. So that's the last one, and that's HR. That's the hyper-rational. So as you can see, these techniques of self-sabotage wired into the brain when you were sometime before 7 years old, before your brain was fully developed, served you to a point, but they don't necessarily serve the evolution of your business and your goals and your vision and the success of your launch. Oftentimes they will cause anxiety, they will cause stress, worry, self-doubt, criticism, all of that can happen inside the mind. And so if you're brave, do you recognize yourself in any of those, and would you be willing to share which one in the chat? Okay, if you're brave. And if you're not feeling like you want to share in the chat, that's totally fine. I shouldn't have said brave. I should say, would you be willing to share which one you think is your top saboteur in the chat? So I will definitely let you know that my top saboteur, I have my combo, is the hyperachiever and the hypervigilant. Okay, so that's me. And I'm owning it, and I'm working with it. And the thing is that when we begin to recognize this, we can start to shift the operating system, take the training wheels off the bike. Okay, Kim says, I see myself in so many. I know, same. Emmy, all of them. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And so that's the thing, is that we likely have a little bit of each of them. We have stronger, more active main characters, right? Based on your upbringing, your patterning, your programming, your family of origin, or ones that you've developed along the way. And so it is really important that we're looking at this with compassion. Okay, we got some more. Charlotte said, I would say all of them because I'm all over the place. Fair enough. And Troy says, HR is me, hyper-rational. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing that. So really what we want to just do is, again, put a hand on your heart and put a hand on your head and just thank that incredible heart, thank your incredible brain, and just recognize that now that you can begin to witness these patterns, we can begin to catch yourself in them. And we want to really do that from a place of compassionate self-awareness. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you, because if you are curious, because there's 10 of them, and if you're like, oh, I don't know, which one am I the more? I don't know which one I am. I actually have a really, really insightful free quiz. If you want to know what your top saboteur is, put the word quiz in the comments and I will make sure to get that to you, because let me tell you, it is a little bit mind-blowing. I'm not going to lie, mind-blowing. I get it. Mind-blowing. Anyways, I'll stop there. Drop the word quiz in the comments if you want to know what your top saboteur is, and I'll send that free quiz over to you. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And actually put the mind blown emoji if you learned something interesting today. Okay. If you learned something interesting today, let us know by putting the mind blown. Josie says, my tops are perfectionist, procrastinator, hyperachiever. Well, that's an interesting combo, right? And we wanted to start to look at this because they may seem oppositional, but they work in a very contagion effect. Once the judge comes on the scene and starts squawking, and then the other characters in the shitty committee show up, and then they're like, oh, but if you're a perfectionist, well, maybe you should make this happen. And it's really interesting to watch how they show up. Okay, we got lots of quizzes. Yay. Emmy says controller, hypervigilant, hyperrational. Yes. And you nailed it right there, Emmy. I am working on overcoming these issues by giving myself grace and gratitude. And that's the antidote. Because the saboteur, the stress mind, is focused on survival. And so it has that hypercritical tone to it. That's up here. And we're grateful. But the antidote, and hopefully this is coming through to you, the antidote to this is presence. The antidote to this is compassion. It is presence. It is curiosity. It is empathy. It is deep self-love, which for many of us can be a challenge at times. And so when you catch yourself in these patterns, just honor that. Give yourself grace, give yourself gratitude, because now we're learning, right? We're learning and we're growing. And so that's it, is that we pause, we take a power pause, we do something that gets you into your body and grounds you so that you can access the wisdom of your higher mind, of the Einstein mind. And so that you can live from that place of deep connection. And when we notice that we've veered off track and we're over here procrastinating and we're nitpicking on the font and on the PDF and on the typos or whatever it is that's happening, we pause. And we come back into alignment with our true soul, with ourself, with our inner guidance, from an energetic perspective. From a scientific perspective, we pause, we quiet the amygdala, we activate the prefrontal cortex. We're in the mastermind now, we're in the Einstein mind. So you can see how this tool set of mental fitness is one that applies in all areas of our life. Because chances are, if you are a hyperachiever in your business, you might find yourself being very competitive in other areas of your life. Or if you procrastinate on your taxes, are you procrastinating on having an awkward conversation with somebody you really need to talk to, but you don't want to because it's going to be uncomfortable? So mental fitness is really the foundation of everything that I do, because it is your patterning in how we handle stressful situations. And those show up in all areas of our life. And what happens when we learn how to become aware of what's happening in our body, because that's how your nervous system is communicating with you, is by way of the feelings in your body. It'll show you what you've been thinking about, right? You've probably heard that reality co-creation of thoughts lead to emotions, lead to actions, lead to results. Well, underneath all of that is your nervous system and the inner state of your nervous system. And whether you're under stress and you're contracted, you're in fight or flight or freeze, or if you're in that open, expansive, aligned space. So that's the difference, right? And when we are in an expanded state in our nervous system, it changes the thoughts that we're having, therefore it changes the emotions, it changes the actions, and changes the results. So that's why having these tools is so important, especially during a stressful situation like a launch or in your business or in a challenging situation. So that's really the foundation of the Mindful Strength Method, which is the tool set that I use, my unique combination of yoga, breath work, and mental fitness. And so what I shared with you today is one of the mental fitness muscles. There's two more, Okay, so there's 3 total. Luckily, there's not 650 like there are in your physical body, although the work that I do helps you to strengthen and tone those as well. And so what we're going to talk about at Align Your Launch, the workshop that's happening next Thursday, are the other 2 muscles and how you can use the mental fitness framework to harness the power of your mind to make it your most powerful tool. Overcome anxiety, procrastination, self-doubt, all of that stuff, because the tool set, as you've learned, has really wide reaches. And the amazing thing about it is that it only takes 15 minutes a day. And it's so impactful because it's literally rewiring your neural patterns, your brain. It rewires you at the deepest level of the brain. So yes, in a sense, there is an element of mindset because you're shifting, but it's not just thinking positive thoughts. It's literally rewiring the pathway that your brain takes when you're facing challenging or stressful situations. So it's so impactful from that perspective because it's not just floofy floof. And I mean, I'm not calling positive thinking floofy floof, but I'm just, I'm talking about things that actually work that make lasting changes to your overall health, wealth, and well-being. So you'll learn that. Another visionary tactic that visionary CEOs use to align and strategize their launch, as well as a proven way to boost your energy, creativity, and joy by upwards of 72% every day. So if you haven't already, drop the word align in the chat and I will make sure to get you the link for that free workshop that's happening next Thursday. Maybe Friday, depending on where you are in the world. But we will keep you posted on the time zone. It's happening at 1 p.m. Pacific, so just a little earlier than today's start. So hopefully those of you that live in a different hemisphere are able to join us, but just on a different day. So it's happening next Thursday, February 22nd. Would love to have you join us. And yeah, I'm glad that there's some mind-blown emojis in the chat. And I would love to hear from you what your biggest takeaway from the mental fitness is. What did you learn today that was impactful for you? Was there anything that you are going to take with you and begin to practice or integrate or ponder? Because being able to be in the Einstein mind and the expanded state in the nervous system speaks volumes. And wow. I swear I ate today, but my brain is glitching like I haven't had enough food. I should have had a snack. When we are in the PQ, when we are in that state of positive intelligence, which is what PQ stands for, which is what we've been talking about, the measure of positive intelligence is being able to command your mind, to harness its power, and be able to do that in a way that's gentle and compassionate and not critical. That's the essence of positive intelligence and mental fitness. That's the essence also of the yoga practice, so that's why they fit and support each other so nicely. So Charlotte says, more me time. Yes, beautiful. Yeah, cultivating that relationship with ourself, witnessing the parts of ourself that are showing up and like feeling like we're not enough for this or that, because there's a wounded part in us that wants to be loved and wants to be accepted and wants to be integrated, wants to be witnessed, wants to be seen. Maybe didn't get it in that moment, right? You know, like if we look at if something quote unquote flopped and we're like really harsh or critical, we miss the opportunity, but we can go back. We can go back and revisit and reconnect and love. So thank you. Okay, so coming in hot. Kim, learning to pause when I get overwhelmed or anxious and reconnect to my why. Exactly. That's it, right? And we don't get out of anxiety in our head. We process the stress through our body, moving through our body so that we can come back to the center, come back to your why, yes, come back to the wisdom of the heart, because the wisdom of the heart, the voice of the heart, the sage self, it's quiet. And the shitty committee is up there squawking like a squad of seagulls. Who knows what a group of seagulls are called? I should look that up for next time because I always reference the mind as seagulls. You know, you hear the Buddhists talking about the monkey mind, but if there's a whole lot of them in there, it sounds like seagulls. Okay. Jose says all saboteurs have a counter superpower. Yeah, they're misusing our superpower. That's the thing, right? Whatever we have in there that's being kind of hijacked and twisted, we get to, by taking a power pause, coming back to center, dropping back in, you get to use the power from a place of presence. So I love that you caught that one. And me giving myself more grace and stop worrying about things beyond my control. Absolutely, right? Trust. And the signature of trust is ease. And ease is a state of the nervous system when we are calm and when we are regulated. We're not always calm, right? That's a misnomer of regulation of the nervous system. We want to be able to go up, up, up and respond to challenges and then come back down. We need to be able to rest without feeling like we're crashed out, right? And so I love that you're giving yourself grace. Kim, I know that I'm enough and to stop trying to do more things when I've done it already. Exactly, right? So that might be hyperachiever tendencies, like push, more. It's just the carrot that's dangling that we get so close and we're almost there and then it just gets yanked. It's often called the happy when syndrome. Troy, relaxation time, not to be under the pump, just to reflect and recharge. Exactly, yeah. And that's an interesting thing because sometimes as entrepreneurs, because we're so focused on what we're doing, it can be challenging to turn the mind off. And so, I was laughing with my client Erin the other day, is that, we were doing some, in our workout, I was guiding her in a yoga practice and she was like, wow, that was actually kind of enjoyable. Normally I don't like that pose, but you had me doing like 8 different things at once and I finally got to just be peaceful. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's the thing with entrepreneurs. We have to figure out how to do multiple things with the brain so that we can just be in the heart. So the brain is off doing all the different parts of the pose or the practice and we can just be quiet. Because it's a beautiful thing to have such a creative mind, but holy hell, it's noisy in there sometimes. Okay, a group of seagulls is called a colony. There we go. Who just learned something new? Me. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been so fun. And give me, if you had fun today, put fun in the chat. Did you have fun? Did you laugh? Did you learn a little something? Where are my stars? I want to give you more stars before we go. Because my vision today was to inspire you, to empower you with some tools, to let you know that I see you, that I very much experienced this myself. And the interesting thing about this whole framework is that the research comes from 50 different countries around the world, 50 different countries. So it's not just a North American thing. It is cross-cultural because it is a human brain wiring tool set. Okay, and so it's something that's used in Fortune 500 companies to boost productivity and focus. And I didn't really say it, productivity and focus, but I think you got that in the sense of how it's going to show up for you, right? All right, we had fun in the chat. Thank you. All right, well, I will be reaching out soon. Plenty of fun. Can't wait to watch and take it deeper. Yes, that's really important, right? Thank you for mentioning that, Troy, because I did just share a lot of information with you. But yeah, definitely rewatch it because there's a lot of golden nuggets in there. And also you will, once you've done the quiz, you're going to learn a lot more about the Saboteur framework. You'll also learn a lot more when we do Align Your Launch, which is next Thursday. And yes, you're interesting and fun. Oh, good. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. You're welcome. I live on Maui. I forgot to tell you that. So if you've seen the movie Moana, I like to sing that you're welcome part. Anyways, that's all for now. You're very welcome from the bottom of my heart, Charlotte. Yes, information overload. I know. Sorry. I'm just getting started, Troy. You just watch me. All right, everybody. Ta-ta for now. Have a beautiful rest of your whatever day it is for you. And I am super grateful for you. And I hope that you take some of this to heart and be gentle and compassionate with yourself. And yeah, keep on being your incredible self, stepping into that purposeful powerhouse CEO version of you that your vision and dreams are calling you to be. And I'm honored to support you in that however I can. So take care for now, everybody. Bye. Aloha.